So in 2018, Weebly gets acquired by Square. Are there any stories around that are worth sharing?
I think the thing about the acquisition that was interesting is that we told employees, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. And we told the press, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. No further questions, right? Like, when does the press ever not try to grill you on something and have more questions for you, right? But it was just, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you guys were both focused on commerce, and Square was the in-person moving online, and Weebly was the online moving in person. And, I think the thing that's somewhat unique about that acquisition, and both sides actually worked really, really hard on this, is across almost all dimensions, it's really worked out. I mean, a lot of the team is still there at Square, like 6 years later. My number two from Weebly is still running the e-commerce, functionality at Square. The whole underpinnings of, a lot of, any online commerce at Square is all the Weebly code base, which has been rebranded to Square Online. So it was a lot of work, but when the acquisition happened, I think it was 99.5% of the team came over and joined.
Wow. And I was going to say, like, if a founder works for an acquirer for several years, like you did, it means that they must have found it interesting, because that's very unusual. So what did you like about working at Square?
I mean, it is an awesome company. The values were remarkably the same. A couple of days before we were announcing it to the team, I pulled up a slide, and I put Square's kind of 4 values and Weebly's 4 values next to each other. I was like, holy shit, these are the same. Like, there's a 1-to-1 match here, which was crazy. And so, I think from the people side, that was really smart. I mean, Square looked at a lot of options and ultimately said it's going to fail if the people side fails. And so that was one of the big considerations. I think it was just an excellent company, made really good decisions, had good internal processes. I mean, I always wanted to kind of see, what does excellence look like at that next level? Weebly was 350 people, and Square was like 3,500 when we were acquired, so about 10%. And I wanted to see, what does it look like at that next scale? Some of the problems that I was struggling with just internal to the company, like, what do those look like when they're solved? And it was just fascinating. I think any company has things that can be improved, but I have nothing but great things to say about Square.
Was Jack Dorsey splitting his time back then between Square and Twitter? Did you notice anything about that?
I think what's kind of funny, and this doesn't relate to Jack, this relates sort of to me, but as I was sort of getting ready to leave, right, over a few years, and I kind of knew roughly what timeline I had in mind. In essence, I started working myself out of a job on purpose, right? And I wanted to delegate and push more things to the team that would have typically been my job, but I really wanted to get them the experience and help coach them through some of this stuff. And what I thought was absolutely fascinating is that eventually, before I left, I was only working maybe 15 or 20 hours a week. I had taken almost everything off my plate. But what I thought was fascinating is that I was one of the most, effective that I've ever been as an executive. And I think that, the lesson for me there was that I think founders have so much wrapped up in their companies. You have identity, you have obviously, financial elements, you have all this stuff wrapped up in your company. And so you sometimes take out all that existential stress on just I'm going to work 24/7 and every waking moment, and I'm going to make this company the best it can be to make it the most successful it can be. And I don't know that that's always the most productive for the team, for your team, because sometimes they're not able to focus on their work when you're constantly bringing things up and they're constantly fighting fires that you're, that you're putting on their plate. So I think that there is a certain, zen to being able to say, I'm going to do all the important stuff that needs to get done. And then I'm going to let my team focus and be productive and get the work done.